Rain poured down in heavy sheets, blurring the edges of the bustling city into a watercolor of lights and shadows. Umbrellas bobbed through the streets, taxis splashed past, and hurried footsteps echoed against the slick pavement. Emily Carter clutched her tote bag tighter, her mind far away from the crowded sidewalk. She was running late for an important meeting, the kind of meeting that could change her career. Yet, despite the rush and the urgency, something pulled at her attention. A figure sat hunched against the side of an old brick building. No umbrella. No coat. Just a thin, tattered sweater clinging to a frail frame. The man's hands trembled as he held a cardboard sign scrawled with a few desperate words, "Hungry. Cold. Please help." The rain dripped from the edge of his messy brown hair, tracing down a face pale with exhaustion. Emily's steps slowed, though every voice in her head urged her to keep moving. She didn't have time. She didn't know him. And yet, there was something about his eyes. Even from a distance, they carried a strange, magnetic sadness, like a memory half remembered. She couldn't place it, but it was enough to stop her in her tracks. The crowd moved around her in an impatient tide, but Emily stood still, rain seeping into her shoes. Finally, she stepped forward and knelt beside him, her umbrella sheltering them both. His lips parted slightly, as if surprised anyone had noticed. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. He gave a faint, almost embarrassed smile. "I've been better." His voice, it wasn't just the tone, but something deeper, stirred a flicker of recognition inside her. She tilted her head, studying him through the curtain of rain. The lines of his face were worn, but behind them was a familiarity she couldn't name. Without another word, Emily reached into her bag and pulled out the sandwich she had packed for lunch. She handed it to him, and his hands shook as he accepted it. "Thank you," he whispered, as if the words cost him effort. Emily nodded, but the unease in her chest wouldn't leave. She had seen him before. She was certain of it now. But where? Emily's meeting that afternoon came and went, her thoughts tangled with the man in the rain. She found herself replaying the way he had looked at her, the quiet dignity beneath his hardship. That night, she lay awake in bed, the patter of rain still echoing in her mind. By morning, she had made a decision. She returned to that same street corner with a thermos of hot coffee, a bag of fresh pastries, and a warm blanket. The man was there, in the same spot, though the rain had given way to a biting wind. When she offered him the coffee, he accepted with a look that was equal parts gratitude and disbelief. "I didn't think you'd come back," he murmured. "I couldn't just walk away," Emily said. "What's your name?" "Daniel," he replied, his eyes lowering. Daniel. The name sent a strange jolt through her. Not because it was unusual, but because it stirred a memory buried deep. As they talked, little pieces of his story emerged. He had once been a musician, playing in small bars and at weddings, his guitar his only prized possession. But a series of misfortunes, his mother's illness, a failed business venture with a friend, the loss of his apartment, had left him with nothing. He had no family left, no one to call. Emily listened, each detail deepening the ache in her chest. She had known hard times too, her father's sudden passing when she was 16, her mother working double shifts to keep the lights on. But Daniel's hardship was different. It was as though life had stripped him bare, piece by piece, until only the shell remained. And then, as he smiled faintly at some distant memory, it hit her. 5 years ago, on a crowded subway platform, Emily had dropped her wallet. She had been in a rush and didn't notice until a voice called out behind her, "Miss. You dropped this." A young man in a leather jacket had jogged up, handing her the wallet with a kind grin. She had barely had time to thank him before the train pulled away. That man was Daniel. Her heart tightened as the realization settled. Over the next week, Emily visited Daniel daily. Sometimes she brought food, other times just conversation. She noticed the way his posture slowly straightened when they spoke, the way his eyes warmed when she laughed. He told her about the songs he used to play, the joy of watching a room of strangers sway together to the same melody. One evening, as the city was drenched in golden sunset, Emily asked him to come with her to a small diner she loved. He hesitated, worried about how others might see him, but she insisted. Inside, the warmth and scent of fresh coffee wrapped around them like a blanket. The waitress, an older woman named Marlene, greeted Emily with a smile but glanced curiously at Daniel. They ate slowly, as though savoring more than just the food. Between bites, Daniel shared a story about his mother teaching him to play guitar on the porch during summer nights. Emily found herself picturing it, the worn wood, the hum of cicadas, the tender pride in his mother's eyes. By the time they left, Daniel looked lighter. But not everyone welcomed her kindness. One afternoon, as Emily was leaving the office with a bag of groceries for Daniel, a coworker named Amanda caught her. Amanda, all sharp suits and sharper opinions, smirked. "You're wasting your time, Emily. People like that, they're just going to drag you down." Emily didn't reply. She had seen the truth in Daniel's eyes. This was no man trying to take advantage. This was someone who had fallen, hard, and simply needed a hand to stand again. Then came the turning point. On a cold Friday morning, Daniel wasn't at his usual spot. Emily searched the nearby streets, panic rising, until she found him huddled in an alley, shivering violently. He was pale, his lips blue. Without hesitation, she called for an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor explained he had pneumonia and would need to stay for at least a week. Emily sat by his bed every evening, reading him stories from her favorite books, telling him about her day, and listening when he felt strong enough to talk. One night, Daniel's voice was barely above a whisper when he said, "You know, I never forgot that day on the subway. You smiled at me like I mattered. I didn't think I'd ever see you again." Emily felt tears sting her eyes. "And now I'm glad I did." When Daniel was discharged, Emily had a surprise. She had found a small, affordable room above a music shop run by her friend. The owner, an old guitarist named Frank, agreed to let Daniel work part-time tuning instruments and occasionally playing for customers. The first time Emily visited, Daniel was sitting on a stool, guitar in hand, playing a slow, soulful tune. The shop was quiet except for the music, which seemed to carry years of pain and hope in every note. When he saw her, Daniel's smile was brighter than she had ever seen. Months later, the city was bathed in spring light. Daniel had regained his strength, his confidence returning like the steady beat of a drum. He was performing again, small gigs at local cafes, his music pulling strangers into a shared warmth. One evening, Emily sat in the front row, listening as he played a song he had written for her. The lyrics told of rain-soaked streets, unexpected kindness, and the power of one person to change another's life. When the song ended, the room erupted in applause, but Daniel's eyes found hers. In that moment, she knew she hadn't just helped him back on his feet, he had reminded her of something too. That the smallest acts of compassion can ripple out in ways we may never see, and sometimes, the people we help become the ones who change us. Life is filled with fleeting moments, but sometimes, one moment can change everything. A simple act of kindness might be the lifeline someone needs to hold on a little longer. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that compassion is never wasted.